I think we're ready to start. Going to call the meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Elsley.
Here.
Dobb.
Here.
Hare.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Kaufman.
Here.
Newhouse.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the pledge.
Gentlemen, remove your hats, please.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is no public hearing scheduled for tonight. No presentation of special reports. But we are going to open for public comment in a minute. I see there are a lot of people here. I'm guessing a lot of them are here to speak for or against the new ordinance. I would ask you to remember that we've been hearing testimony, if you will, for some time. And I would hope that people don't repeat themselves too much, because it's going to be a long night if everybody wants to say the same thing over and over. With that in mind, could I see a show of hands of those who plan to speak tonight in favor of the gambling ordinance? Let me keep them up so I can get some kind of a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many plan to speak in opposition to the ordinance? 1, 2, 3. Got it. I want to try to keep this leveled out, so I'm going to let a couple of 3 people speak in favor of the ordinance, and then I'll interject somebody who wants to speak against it and so forth, so we have some kind of a balance. With that in mind, let's see a show of hands again who anyone wants to speak in favor of the ordinance. Lady over here, would you like to speak, please? Yes.
We want a name and an address.
We're going to need your name and address before you speak.
My name's Jennifer Underwood, 1253 East Monroe. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone on the board and to Mayor Ranson. I am 100% in favor of video gaming in Morton, and I have grown very passionate about this issue. First, I would like to discuss family values and people's concerns of bringing up children in a town that has video gaming. To me, video gaming has nothing to do with family values. How parents choose to raise their kids does. My parents, Steve and Marie Arundel, opened Schooners in Morton when I was 3 years old. My sister Stephanie was 5 and Nicole was 6. The machines were there from when they opened their doors up until 2 years ago. Being around the video gaming machines for 26 years never affected me or my sisters, and I couldn't tell you the last time I played one. But let me tell you about family values while my sisters and I were growing up. My parents are not the first to do something just because everyone else is. In fact, there were many times that we wanted to do something, and even though our friends were still doing it, we weren't allowed to. On from family values, I would like to bring up the gay rights float that was in the Pumpkin Festival parade last month. So much controversy surrounded that. People were up in arms before they even saw it. Some were even told to turn their backs on it as it passed by. Growing up, we were taught to love one another and treat others as we'd want to be treated. And that's what we've encouraged our children to do as they're growing up now. My point in bringing the flow up is such a big deal was made over this. It happened, didn't end up being a big deal, and is not discussed anymore. As with video gaming, if it's passed, it won't be an issue, as it wasn't previously, and it will be forgotten about by those that oppose it and somewhat don't support these establishments, and there will be another issue to move on to. But if it's not passed, these businesses will continue to lose clientele, and they'll eventually, some of them will have to close their doors. Another big issue was alcohol sales in grocery stores. It was a big deal at the time, but it passed, and it hasn't been since. Of course, there are certain rules and regulations that go along with the alcohol sales, as in such specific hours that the alcohol can be sold and a certain age. As with video gaming, there will also be rules and regulations. You have to be a certain age to play, and there can only be a certain number in the establishments. I could understand there being a concern with alcohol sales since they never had it before and there were no facts to back up how it may harm or benefit the community. But I'm up here speaking in favor of video gaming because it was in Morton in the past and there's evidence to prove it did not create an issue. Lastly, I'd like to say the fundraisers, benefits, and donations that these establishments give are truly amazing. It's a wonderful thing they do. To me, saying no to video gaming would be saying no to juvenile diabetes, the Cancer Center, St. Jude, Relay for Life, softball teams that need sponsors, and so on. We don't want to see local bars and restaurants go downhill and lose business because this doesn't pass. Again, thank you all for serving our community, taking time to hear everyone on this matter, and I hope you vote yes for video gaming. Thank you.
Would someone else like to speak in favor of video gambling? Gentleman who just put his hand up.
My name is Jerry Agles. I live at 1310 South Missouri in Morton. Mr. Mayor and esteemed trustees, I thank you for this chance to speak in behalf of and in support of video gaming in Morton. First, I'd like to reference an email or e-petition, if you will, that's floating around via Facebook from a website called change.org. This is widely circulating, as I said, and when I became aware of it a few days ago, there were 250 people signing in support of this petition. I checked about an hour ago, and it was at 540 in support of this petition. So it's growing very rapidly in just a matter of days. Because some of this may have been said before, I'm going to try to paraphrase and shorten this up just a little bit. First, I'm going to talk about what's in this petition, this e-petition, and then I'm going to make some points that I would like to make. The petition says I would encourage you to support state licensed video gaming for our local businesses and veterans organizations. Video gaming is a legal entertainment option that many people enjoy. Allowing our businesses to take part in this state-approved program not only generates new customers, sales taxes, and direct revenue for our community, it also allows our businesses and veterans organizations to compete equally with competitors in neighboring communities. If you support the values of free marketplace, limited government, and you believe our local business and veterans organizations deserve this opportunity to compete on a level playing field, then please vote yes tonight for state licensed video gaming. Video gaming was recently legalized in Illinois for establishments with liquor licenses, including bars, restaurants, and restaurant veterans organizations. These establishments can have up to 5 state-regulated machines. Revenue from video gaming entertainment is split between the business organization, city, and state. Currently, a neighboring community, Washington, is generating about $40,000 a month in revenue. East Peoria is estimated at about $90,000 a month in revenues. Morton does not currently allow this for approved businesses and veterans organizations, putting these groups at a severe competitive disadvantage. Local establishments, including Red Rock, Schooners, the Brass Bowl, the Office, Mullins, Patio Flaherty's, the VFW, the American Legion, and others are losing customers and revenue to competitors in neighboring communities, all of which allow video gaming. The Village of Morton is also losing an estimated figure of $90,000 a year. I did not create that number. I don't know where it came from. That's what's in this petition. And it goes on to say, let me encourage Mayor Rainson and the trustees to support our local businesses and veterans organizations by approving state-licensed video gaming in Morton at the village meeting tonight. Now I'd like to make some points of my own in support of video gaming. First, from the crowd, can I have a show of hands? Who has heard prior to tonight that 3 of our trustees are ready to vote in opposition to this ordinance? Would you just raise your hand? So it's widely known. Okay. Widely believed that trustees Belsley, Herman, and Kaufman stand ready to vote against the proposal, and that Mayor Rainson, if in a tiebreaker situation, will also vote against video gaming. Mr. Mayor, wasn't your election platform based in part on a smaller, less intrusive government, sort of an out with the old, in with the new. And you touted your business acumen. I certainly stumped for you personally. I'd like to see something from that. I don't want to be one of those who voted in perhaps a national election and expected change and didn't get it. Secondly, it's very difficult or impossible to legislate moral issues. Just as an example, how did America fare during Prohibition? Not so well. I'll go on. How has Peoria done economically versus East Peoria when their anti-business posture moved the boat across the channel? Seems East Peoria has redeveloped its downtown twice since they got the boat. If you want to see real prosperity, go to the Levee District. Take a look. Since about 1970, both federal and state governments have enacted laws to legalize and regulate gaming, and they've strengthened these laws as new technologies and a global economy emerged. Have you wondered why? You might think it's all about revenue, but that's only partly correct. It's more about stopping illegal activities such as money laundering, and the money laundering which funds illegal activities and terrorism. The most obvious example of that is the Patriot Act, which continues to protect us, though it does hamper some of our rights. I understand that Tremont is 3 miles away, and East Peoria, which is adjacent to Morton, both have video gaming. I just hate to imagine that our clients, our citizens in Morton can go just that far away and spend their money outside of these city limits. Further, if a trustee cannot weigh the merits objectively, for example, due to personal reasons against gaming, the better course of action might be to somehow avoid this conflict of interest. Before calling the question, I hope that each trustee would state his or her reason why, in other words, the underlying rationale for their negative vote if they vote against it. Please vote for economic vitality in Morton. Otherwise, East Peoria might eat our lunch like they're doing Peoria's. Thank you.
Let me remind everybody that this is not a public hearing. This is just a period for public comment, so there is no debate, no question and answer, and everyone is kind of obliged to keep this to about 5 minutes at the most. Mike Bush, under the regulations, has asked for a little more than 5 minutes, so he'll be talking a bit more than that. But other than that, we really hope you'll keep your comments limited. Could I have another show of hands on who would like to speak in favor? Lady in stripes.
My name's Stephanie Shepherdson, and I live at 42 Oklahoma Court. Schooners has always been a second home to me growing up. My parents, Steve and Marie Arundel, opened it when I was 5 years old. But Schooners, like many other establishments in Morton, are like a second home to many. These establishments are what help make the small town of Morton what it is known for. Small, locally owned, friendly, and personable businesses. If video gaming is voted down, we will again reinforce people's belief that Morton is a snobby town, just like all of the harsh comments thrown at this town over the Habitat for Humanity house issue. The state of Illinois has put restriction laws on video gaming. The max bet is $2, which is also the same limit as Charity and Church Bingo Act. The max payout is $500. Any pathological gambler is not going to lose a paycheck on one of these games. If they want to seriously gamble, they will drive to the Paradise or sit at home and gamble online or with friends. The Government Accounting Office reports it has found no evidence of a link between convenient gambling and pathological gambling. The majority of Americans gamble with little or no adverse consequence. The Harvard Medical School Division on Addictions found only 1.6% of adults nationwide suffer from pathological gambling. Morton will retain 5% of all revenue collected from video gaming. There are currently 7+ establishments that qualify for a maximum of 5 machines each. This has resulted in a significant revenue in municipalities surrounding us. In August of 2013, the City of Canton, which has a total of 36 machines, brought in $4,554.92. The Town of Chillicothe, which has a total of 25 machines, brought in $3,073.11. And Peoria Heights, which has a total of 25 machines, brought in $3,285.01. Gambling is everywhere in town. Are we also going to ban the state lottery and 50-50 raffles at football games? You can't take things out of a town that you feel cause family problems. People will just go elsewhere, and that is not what is best for the town of Morton, which should be what your vote is based on. I choose to live here in Morton not because of a Family Magazine award, but because it's a great place to raise a family. I come from a very religious family, and I respect that everyone has their own religious values. I don't believe, however, that I nor anyone else should govern based solely on these values. If video gaming is truly against your religious beliefs, then I believe you should abstain from this important decision. We call ourselves Mortonites, and we all want what is best for our town, so please support what Morton is known for, small family businesses. Thank you.
Could I see a show of hands of anyone who would like to speak against video gambling? Lady up against the wall, so to speak.
My name is Joyce Kaiser. I live at 814 East Jackson Street. I would like to echo the words of the lady before and say that I appreciate your work as trustees. I know you put a lot of time and effort into it. My comments will be brief, and I will read them. We all know there's a principle in life that says we all must work and produce something of value in order to receive compensation. Gambling produces no product of value. We would like to urge you to vote against video gambling at tonight's meeting. Please do this as a consideration in teaching the value of work and good ethics in keeping Morton a healthy, honest, and thriving community. For this reason, we would appreciate your work toward keeping any form of gambling out of our community in the future. Thank you.
Show of hands for anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the ordinance. Purple. Yeah. Is that purple? I'm a guy, I don't know colors. We only know like 4 colors, so.
Excuse me. My name is Tara Hutchinson. I live at 501 North Nebraska. I will be speaking in favor of video gaming. I've lived here in Morton for 39 years. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I support video gaming because I feel that it's actually no different than bingo, bunco, poker nights at somebody's house, pinball machines. These establishments that have video gaming, they need to survive. Business people, like Caterpillar people that come here for work, they need places to go to eat lunch. Families need a place to go out for dinner. Friends need a place to gather together. Spouses need time to spend with each other. And they don't want to go someplace with fast food. I've known Steve and Marie Arundel, who are the owners of Schooners, for most of my life. I've held surprise birthday parties there for my husband. I've had anniversary parties there for my parents. I've held 2 fundraisers, last year in 2002 and this year in 2013, or 2012 and 2013, both for my daughter here who has type 1 diabetes. If those establishments are not here, there is no place for us to hold fundraisers. In 2012, we raised $6,000 for JDRF. This year, we raised $9,000 for JDRF. That is for my daughter. I have not one problem taking my family into Schooners to eat dinner and a place to hold a fundraiser or an anniversary party or a dinner. Class reunions. If these businesses do not survive, there will be a trickle-down effect. Out-of-town people will not come here and buy our gas. They will not run to our grocery stores for last-minute grocery items. They will not stay in our hotels because there's no place for them to go. And all of this in the long run is just going to end up raising our taxes. Video gaming, I believe, has nothing to do with people's morals. I believe that starts in the home. My family and I go to church every week. I send my 2 children to a parochial school here in town, where they talk about Jesus on a daily basis. Yet I still don't have a problem having a fundraiser at Schooners or taking my family there for a birthday party or an anniversary party or dinner. We need these establishments to survive. Thank you.
Could I have a show of hands of someone who would like to speak again in favor of video gambling? Green checkered shirt. I got that right, didn't I?
I'm a guy, I only have 3 colors.
I'm Todd Fortier. I work at Schooners at 630 West Jackson here in Morton. I'm here to give a few brief comments. I've spoke before. Won't hit any of those points. You've seen the research. You've heard everything that I had to say at that time. The only reason that I'm up here tonight and the only reason I decided to speak is I want to speak on behalf of the people that work hard in these establishments and demonstrate good ethics. We have at Schooners 16 employees. 16 employees that'll lose their livelihood and their support for their families. Of those 16 employees, we have roughly 34 spouses and kids that depend on the income that comes from Schooners for their rent, their food, and their livelihood. We're not just taking away from Steve and Marie Arundel and all the other businesses here in Morton. We're taking from the families. We're taking from the citizens of Morton. It is a trickle-down effect. It's not just the person that's sitting at the top bringing in. It's not the city council that's bringing in more revenue to Morton. These are people's livelihoods. Yeah, 2 years ago, the machines went away. I came in at the end of those machines, and I've watched business decline since that day. This is not a new issue. This is not something that just came to the forefront. Gambling's been in Morton since these bars opened. We're not asking to put a gentleman's club in downtown Morton because everybody else has one. We're asking for the same competitive advantage that was there 2 years ago. Just a level playing field so people can work hard and make a living. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else who would like to speak in favor? I'm not going to try colors with him.
Hi, my name's Danette Rumsey, 1031 East Monroe. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. Thank you so much for your time. I own the Brass Bowl Tavern. I live here in Morton with my 2 children. They're in the 4th and 5th grade at Lincoln Grade School. I'd like for you to indulge me. This is my first time speaking, so I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 3rd-year PTO vice president at Lincoln. It's my 4th year heading up the Spirit Committee. It's a very busy committee that focuses on several different Morton community service projects. I volunteer in the library at school, and I help teach art in the Artistic Adventures program. And when you walk into Lincoln School, you can see the Brass Bowl Tavern on the donor wall. My kids are both in the Blaze organization. My daughter has taken dance at Center Stage for 4 years. My son takes guitar lessons in Morton, and they both participate in various Park District activities. These things my kids love, I may soon not be able to afford. The Brass Bowl has been in my family for 27 years. I've worked there all 27 years. This building is one of the oldest buildings in Morton. It was built in 1893. It's always been a tavern. There used to be cattle auctions in the parking lot every Saturday. During the time we've been at the Brass Bowl, we've had a Race for the Cure team over 20 years. I'm a silver sponsor of the St. Jude Morton to Peoria run for several years, and we've held, like all the other restaurants and bars, numerous benefits for those in need over the years. My parents bought a struggling business and turned it into some place that people love to gather to socialize and play games. Since 1998, when I purchased the business, I've continued to have success. The economy was a hard hit to my business, but I made the adjustments, and we continued to be successful. The Pumpkin Festival. I love it as much as my kids. We're there every night, riding the rides, eating the elephant ears, winning hermit crabs that end up costing a lot more than just the game that you play. The Pumpkin Festival was always a big boost to my year, my business year. This one was great, just like all of them. I always appreciate the pumpkin festivals. But it wasn't a revenue boost. It helped me catch up a bit. I shop Morton. I buy my paint at the Miller Paint Shop. I buy my floor coverings at Tazewell. I believe in supporting my community. In the last 16 months, I've watched my business decline, and the biggest decline has come since the video gaming law passed in Illinois, making it legal in the restaurants and bars. 16 months ago, the gaming machines were taken out of my business after being there for 25 years. These video gaming machines caused no problems in my business for 25 years. All of our neighboring towns have them. They seem to be having great success with them. The people that played my video gaming machines, they didn't stop playing. They're just driving a mile down the road now. Some people think that greed is the reason that the restaurants and bars want the machines. We're just trying to save our businesses. I knew I'd be losing the revenue when they took my video gaming machines out in 2012. I never saw this coming, that when video gaming became legal in restaurants and bars in Illinois and Morton opted out, that I would lose so many of my customers to these restaurants and bars in the towns that offer the video gaming. And it's not just because these video gaming machines are there. These restaurants and bars can afford to offer sale prices on their food and their beverages because of the extra revenue that they're getting from the gaming. So not only do they have the gaming, they also have cheaper prices on everything. My revenue has dropped 18% in the last 16 months, and 2013 is the worst year I've had in the 15 years I've owned the Brass Bowl. This is going to have a trickle-down effect that will include many individuals and businesses in our community. We are Morton business owners, and without voting yes, you will be signing a death sentence for some of us. I employ 7 people, including single mothers, who count on this job as their second income. Unfortunately, I will soon have no choice but to lay people off. And what that means to me is I'm going to be working more, and I'm going to be spending less time with my children, and I'm going to be spending less time volunteering at my children's school, as well as it's going to affect the families of my employees. So, Mr. Mayor, if this is a 3-3 tie, I ask you to vote yes. I know you want to help Morton businesses grow, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to help us get our customers back to our community. It's clear to me that video gaming is coming to Morton. We just ask that you vote yes now and save our business. Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to speak against the ordinance? Gentleman by the wall.
Good evening. My name's Jeff Nyhauser. I live at 17 Jasper Drive here in Morton. And I just want to make 3 brief points. First of all, I want to thank you for considering this serious topic and hearing the various points of view from both sides, and really doing a great job of hearing out the pros and cons of everybody's points of view. Second of all, it's an honor to be a Morton representative and living here in this community. And I think either way that this turns out, I think I know for myself, I'll continue to count it an honor to be from Morton. And either way, I'm not saying this to tranquilize the responsibility or the importance, but I just hope that as we walk out of here, we will all leave with the same commitment and excitement about this community as we walk in. Third is leadership. Hard choices are what sometimes leadership is called to do, and to make those. And when it comes down to moral judgments, it's sometimes some of the hardest decisions are saying no to what's popular and what a lot of people have an interest in. But anyway, I just want to encourage you and greatly appreciate the time that each of you have invested here, and also probably personally as you've taken phone calls or emails or had conversations. But I greatly appreciate the fact that as we leave here tonight, either way the vote comes out, that we can all be proud to pull together and call this a great community. Thank you.
Someone in favor of the ordinance? Larry?
My name is Larry Steimling. I live at 501 East Jefferson here in town. I am the Senior Vice Commander of the American Legion. And I'm an alcoholic. I'm a rehabbing alcoholic. I have been dry for 1 week short of 30 years. What's that got to do with anything? Alcoholism is a behavioral addiction. Many have said that gambling is a behavioral addiction. I choose not to drink because I know what it would do to my family, to myself, to my friends, to my American Legion post. I choose not to gamble for the same reasons. However, think about where we are right now. We are in Freedom Hall. I should have the freedom to do a legal activity, an activity that is legal in 99% of this state. Part of that 1% is the village of Morton, which restricts my freedom to do something I choose not to do, but other people would like to do. So instead, they drive 1/4 mile outside the village limits and stop at T&T's on 150. They stop across the street where the signs are on the doors coming in and purchase a lottery ticket. We're not pure. We allow gambling in this town. What we are doing, if we vote no tonight, is restricting the freedoms of your constituents. And if we want to go to the religious venue, let's talk about how the replacement for Judas was decided by casting lots. A flip of a coin, a game of chance, is how the 13th disciple was chosen. I can quote it for you. Perhaps Reverend Witzig will later. But gambling is not condemned in the Bible. In fact, in Proverbs, it is said it is the way of the Lord. Let's not take a religious thing to restrict our freedoms. Thank you.
Is there someone who would like to speak against the ordinance? No one? Oh, there's a hand in the middle.
Hello, Board. My name is Andy Saxma, 201 North Missouri. Thanks for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. I just want to say briefly that we've got to draw a line somewhere as to what's acceptable in the community and what's not. And I think about what was acceptable in my parents' day and what was acceptable in my grandparents' day. And I see that the line just keeps shifting little by little. And I'm asking you to vote against this because this is just one more little thing, and we don't need one more little thing. It's hard to do anything in public without making a statement. And I think when we gamble in public, we make a statement and we encourage others to gamble. And as was said before, gambling doesn't produce anything. And I think we can find better ways to use our time and our resources. I don't think it's God's best for us. I really appreciate the businesses in town and the trouble that they're having over this. And I think as creative Mortonites, we can find other ways to help our businesses other than just plugging in a machine and letting it run. So I just thank you, or I thank you for your time, and I ask that you vote against this. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the regulation? Chris?
I've written a few notes here because as I get older, I find that's a wise thing to do. My name is Chris Clark. I live at 212 Ridge. I've lived in Morton for 60 years, and I've had two businesses which I've been involved in owning, one for 7 years. The current one, I'm on my 25th year. Since the last meeting, and I'll make this brief, I've been thinking a lot about the context of this whole thing and what the real crux of the matter is as far as the division within the people. We all have moral compasses for ourselves and obviously for our children that we're raising. We have different faiths, different beliefs, different boundaries. We can all agree on certain immoral acts, especially those that hurt others. I don't think there's a person in the room that wouldn't agree with that. Past that, there's a gray area. This is where we have different parameters based on different beliefs, different religions. I believe that beyond the basic morals or acts where we can agree on are unacceptable, it is the individual's choice whether or not to engage in legal activities which, in this case, replace the formerly illegal activities that were here. If we have personal standards and boundaries and have passed them on sufficiently to our offspring, they will refrain from what we want them to refrain from. Those who have different opinions and boundaries should have a choice. If your training and faith dictate that being in a bar or enjoying playing a poker machine is wrong, you should have nothing to worry about. If that faith and training doesn't hold up, it is not the state of Illinois or the village of Morton's fault. In conclusion, some people like bars, like gaming, and other things. If you don't want to partake, don't. But it's not correct to dictate to others what they have a right to do with their own views and different definitions of righteousness. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak against the ordinance?
Hello, I'm Ted Witzig Jr. I live at 1702 Deerfield Drive. Thanks, like many have said, for listening to both sides. It is a topic that both sides feel passionate about, and there's a number of reasons, as you've heard. I'd like to start by talking about the ordinance itself, and I just thought it was interesting as I looked at the ordinance itself that it's written very clearly so you can know who will vote for it and who will vote against it. But actually there's a number of comments in the ordinance that looked like it was simply written by the pro-gaming lobby. When you read the statement, based on extensive licensing and regulations, the Board of Trustees determines that it is not detrimental to the village of Morton. With all this controversy, with all this back and forth, saying that it is just not detrimental, that's going a bit far. To say something like, the passage of this ordinance is not an endorsement of video gaming, but a recognition that this is a matter of personal choice for responsible adults to exercise. First, I'm sorry, you can't push off responsibility that easy. Simply saying it isn't an endorsement doesn't make it so. If it's allowed, it's endorsed. It goes without saying. I am my biggest concern about this particular thing is this very reasoning right here is the same reasoning that could be used for almost any other kind of activity, such as a strip club or X-rated porn shops. Thank you. I'm going to go off script, I guess, and just say that it's been one of those things that everybody feels passionate about. Everybody has their reasons for feeling passionate. I feel really sorry for everyone that somebody here is going to go home, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else, is going to be disappointed. I don't like that. I don't want people to lose their jobs. I don't think the American Legion or people who do fundraisers are bad people. I'm not up here for that. I've spoken on several occasions here, and I've shared 4 perspectives: as a licensed clinical psychologist, as a parent, as a resident and taxpayer, and as a minister. As a licensed clinical psychologist, I have shared the research findings that show, the most up-to-date research shows that it activates the brain reward system with effects similar to drugs of abuse. The technology around video gambling is particularly addictive. It's made to be so. And while the addiction risk has been looked at by some as minuscule and anecdotal, I've seen it firsthand. I've been in practice 16 years. I've seen the devastated families. I've watched the wives who can't pay the bills because their husbands have flushed it down the toilet. I've seen it firsthand. That's one of the places I speak from. I spoke about it as a parent raising children in our town. And when our children say everyone's doing it, we don't just cave as parents. We don't do just what other people do. I spoke as a resident and a taxpayer. And that's all I just like to say is we've talked about a level playing field. And I can understand that from a business owner's perspective. But I'm also talking about sometimes we have to take the high road. And not all money is good money. Finally, there's been a lot of talk about faith in this whole matter. I've worked hard to make sure that my statements are principled, but not once have I ever tried to shove it down anybody's throat. It's their choice what they believe, but it's my choice what I believe too. So one of the things that I think about gambling is, and I've said this before, just because something is legal doesn't make it wise. In closing, I want to thank you for your comments, for listening to my comments. I want to thank you for what you do for the leadership of our town. And I want to echo Jeff Nyhauser that says, I hope that whatever happens, we can all move forward together as a community supporting each other. Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Gentleman over in the corner. That's white. Yes, well, that wasn't what I was thinking.
My name's Ralph Mattia, and I live at 430 East Edgewood. I do not know Mr. Witzik, but, I wish I did, because I think the man has the same views I do. He cares about the community, and he cares about the people. And I'll get to that in my talk, but I'd really like to get to know you, sir. I moved to Morton after the Great Economic Depression caused by President Jimmy Carter and before the last labor management disagreement that divided our community. Morton and Caterpillar survived both of these events, and I believe that Morton will survive video gaming. Now, I do not know God's views on gambling. I assume he's probably against Russian roulette, and he's probably okay with marriage. What can I say, you know? But I do know this. My friend Marie and her associates have been really hurt by the current law. Some have expressed concerns that we will lose our Family Circle Award. I remind them that since ancient times, all heroes have been warned that all glory is fleeting. And I fear that most of Marie and her associates' customers have already fled. Some have spoken about family values and common threads. To me, the Pumpkin Festival demonstrates our family value. We are a community, and our common thread is that we care for each other. So I just ask that we show the same care for Marie and her associates that we show the people that elect to choose a lifestyle that we may disagree with. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this is a very difficult decision for you all. Allow me to share some information concerning a U.S. policy decision that was made decades ago and the position of two very prominent Republican leaders. And this issue is still controversial today. The issue is the Selective Training and Service Act of 1940. Some of us know it as the draft. It was hotly debated. But this bipartisan bill passed the Senate. A different version passed the House. Went to joint committee, something that apparently we don't do anymore. But in joint committee, the bill came out, passed the House, passed the Senate. It was signed by President Franklin Roosevelt. It has been upheld by the federal courts who rejected 13th Amendment challenges. During the first vote, Representative Everett Dirksen, a Republican from Illinois' 16th District, voted no. Interestingly, he did not cast a vote on the final bill. Now, I've talked to the people at the Dirksen Center, and a lot of records have been lost, but they were kind enough to provide me with some information on what he felt about the draft. And interestingly, it's a lot of the concerns we have today. In his first, he wrote 3 times on it in his congressional front. The first, he summarized the bill so that his constituents would know what was happening. In the second one, he was worried that some states would be overrepresented by the draft. In other words, there might be 45% of the people from North Carolina get drafted and 12% from Illinois. He was worried that the language in the law would stay in effect during not only wartime but peacetime. And he was concerned that male aliens who owe their allegiance to other nations could be drafted. Now, we could kind of relate that to outside influences coming into Morton. What was interesting is that in one of the letters, he noted that the Illinois National Guard could be called into active service. But he concluded, he said, they, the Illinois National Guard, are not only our neighbors, they are a part of us. Now, another person who opposed it was Colonel Robert McCormick of Chicago Tribune fame. McCormick was an intelligence officer on the staff of General Pershing in France in 1917. He was promoted to colonel with the 1st Infantry Division and saw action at Cantigny and the Argonne. He was cited for prompt action in battle, and he received the Distinguished Service Medal. So my question, why was Colonel McCormick opposed to the draft? Well, it's believed that he had underlying opposition to the draft because he was an isolationist. Bibliographers and several of his friends suggest that he was an isolationist because he was heeding the advice of President George Washington to avoid entangling alliances. However, once the war was declared, he supported the United States of America because everything else was secondary to his strongly held belief that one must support the military service in defense of one's country. So I ask you, do you strongly believe in small businesses that do not ask for government handouts or bailouts? Do you strongly believe in small businesses that support our community, create jobs, pay sales and property taxes? Gentlelady and gentlemen, although Morton and Caterpillar survived Jimmy Carter and two uncompromising negotiators, my friend Marie and other businesses will not survive 3 or 4 no votes. Policy decisions, as you all well know, have consequences, intended and otherwise. Selective Service Training Act of 1940 was not popular. Everett Dirksen, our own successor to Congressman Abraham Lincoln, did not support the original bill, yet he did not vote on the final bill. The Colonel did not support the draft, yet he put his personal beliefs aside and supported his country. Can you put your personal preferences aside and support these Main Street businesses? Please give Marie and her associates a chance to survive. They are not only our neighbors, they are a part of us.
I think we're getting down to the end of our participants. Would anybody like to speak in either position, for or against? Illinois.
Mr. Mayor, ladies, gentlemen, I am Jerry Davis. I am the commander of the Morton VFW. We do business at 1210 Veterans Road. I am here in support of video gaming. I just have basically 2 things. The first, I've heard the moral issue, the religious issue, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, I have yet to see one clergyman saying, I am here speaking for the Apostolic Church, I'm here speaking for the Catholic Church, the Mennonite Church. It hasn't happened. These are all individual points of view. Individual moral points of view. Enough on that. My second point, I've heard a lot about being one of the top 10 cities in the United States to live in. Well, there was on the World Wide Web a couple of weeks ago, that kind of went out the window. Now I think you have a chance to show that you are not an uppity community, but you are concerned about all the citizens, so I urge you to vote yes.
Would anyone else like to speak? Ma'am?
My name is Kathy Corey. I live at 319 East Forest Wood. I am strongly in favor of allowing video gaming in Morton. My one main concern, I had a lot to say, but I'm going to cut it very short because it'll be just repeating over and over. But my one main concern I have heard is that video gaming will lead to problems such as addiction. As with anything, individuals addicted to gaming will find a way to gamble. Like alcohol, they'll find a way to drink. Like smokers, they say it causes cancer. They're going to find a way to smoke. They're going to find one way or other. I'm not saying anything. We had a business in Pekin many years back. People that don't want to be seen drinking, smoking, gambling, they will find another place to go and do it. Why take it out of Morton? Don't do this to our people. I remember when my sister was first coming into Morton, they told her she'll never make it because she's not a Mortonite. What's a Mortonite? You know, I always want her to be a Mortonite, and I hope she'll be here for the rest of her life. So I ask that you please vote yes for gaming. Thank you.
Anyone else, either position? Lady, is that purple? Okay, I finally got it right.
Can we take a break after this? We need a break, please. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sandy Rassi, and I live at 11 Columbine Street here in Morton. I do want to thank you for all of your time, and as I've heard from many of you who are speaking, I honestly do not envy your positions because it's hard. It's hard to make a decision that is going to upset people no matter which way you go. That's hard. I also want to speak from a point of view that I haven't heard yet tonight, and my heart has really been touched by a lot of what I've heard, especially those who feel real pressure from their businesses and from losing customers. And I've also heard the point of view that not all money is equal. And that speaks to me in part because I have a very good friend who really struggled with gambling. And I watched her dig very hard to get her way back out of it, but it took years. And I know that people will go and they'll find ways to do things that are bad for them no matter what, and I get that. But I also don't want to be the person who's a part of it, of helping the individual get to that point where they're in that hole. So I would just appreciate you to also consider those situations. And I thank you and just ask that you would vote against. Thanks.
I know there are still a few more speakers, but I think I'm going to call for a stretch. We will reassemble here at 5 after 8, which is like 8 minutes. We'll take a break and get up and stretch a little bit. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against this? Gentleman in the back, is that Mike?
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening to me again, and I'll try not to use the extra time I asked for. Everyone else has been brief. I will try to follow suit. I gave you a handout, and I'll just go through it briefly. The United States Constitution, the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, first clause provides that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. Section 3 of the Illinois State Constitution says in part, nor shall any preference be given by law to any religious denomination or mode of worship. When you were all sworn into office, you took an oath that said, I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of office to the best of my ability. Section 1.513 of the village ordinance says that Robert's Rules of Order shall govern all deliberations. Section 45 of Robert's Rules of Order says no member should vote on a question which has a direct personal or pecuniary interest not common to the other members of the organization. A conflict of interest is defined as a conflict between private interest and official responsibilities of a person in a position of trust. 3 of the board members clearly have a conflict of interest. There's no question about that. Those 3 board members should do the right thing. They should fulfill their obligations that they took when they took the oath, and they should abstain from voting. All 3 board members are members of one or more of the churches that oppose this. There's absolutely no question they have a dog in this fight. There's absolutely no question that if they aren't actually criticized by members of their church, they certainly have that fear. I'm not asking you to vote against your church. I'm just asking you to do the right thing and abstain. Everyone in Morton knows that you have a conflict of interest. Some of you even told people you couldn't possibly support this because of your membership in the church. The right thing to do is not to vote. This is clearly a situation where just two churches are trying to impose their moral interpretations on the rest of the committee, the rest of the citizens. I tried to count, there's some double listings, but Morton has somewhere in the vicinity of 20 churches. Why are we only hearing from 2 of them? Why are we only hearing from members of 2 of them? To my knowledge, the only person that has spoken in opposition of this that isn't a member of one of those churches is my friend Barb Smith. There might be 1 or 2 more, but we all know a vast majority of the people that are speaking in opposition are members of 1 of 2 churches. I don't know how many members these churches have, but I would suspect that there's probably well under a combined membership of well under 1,000 people. Morton has a population of 16,000 people. We've heard a lot of talk about a moral compass. This isn't an issue that has to do with your moral compass. You use your moral compass when you decide whether to grant a zoning ordinance or whether or not to shut down the city streets and let St. Jude's have a run or a fundraiser. This is clearly a situation where relatively few people are asking you to impose their interpretation on everybody else in the village. My question is, does it strike anybody besides me as curious that we haven't heard from any other church members, any other churches? If this is so obviously immoral and you'd have to disregard your moral compass to vote in favor of this, why are only 2 of the 20 churches speaking? I've been through this before, I'll go through it again. No law is valid unless there's a rational basis for the law. And I said this last time, but I'll say it again. You could not pass an ordinance outlawing brown shoes in Morton because there's no rational basis for it. There's no rational basis to vote against this ordinance. My friend Barb Smith stood up last time and said, well, they're saying it was anecdotal, but we have Mr. Witzig and studies and clinical psychologists. Mr. Witzig's clearly a well-intentioned, extremely intelligent man. He's got a PhD in psychology, but I doubt if he's an expert on the causes and cures of addiction. I doubt that he could qualify as an expert witness on those matters. You know, I'm a lawyer. I wouldn't come before you and try to tell you about maritime salvage rights in the Great Lakes. Just because I've got a law degree doesn't make me an expert on that particular topic. Mr. Witzig again mentioned studies, as did Mrs. Smith last time. I haven't seen any studies. Anybody seen any studies? I mean, where are these studies and what do they say? I have no doubt that there are some studies that say people can become addicted to video gaming. But that begs the issue. The issue is, if Morton enacts this ordinance and there's 50 video gaming machines in Morton, is that going to significantly increase the number of so-called gambling addicts in Morton? I haven't seen any studies to support that. Has anybody else seen any studies? We've heard a few people talk about, they throw out Proctor. Well, Proctor arrived riverboat, and what you're supposed to believe is the riverboat came to Peoria, and it caused so much gambling addiction that Proctor was required to open up a treatment center for gaming. You know, these people don't have the foggiest idea what they're talking about when they talk about Proctor. I know something about Proctor. I graduated from the Proctor Academy for the Criminally Drunk and Stupid in 1987. You know, back in those days, and up until the late 1990s, Proctor was known as the Proctor Center for Chemical Dependency. In the late 1990s, Proctor merged with another outfit, built a $3 million building, and they went from the business of helping people to the business of making money. These treatment centers are in business to make money. Why do you think you see ads on television for them? Just because Proctor treats gambling addiction doesn't mean that it's a problem in Peoria. I know beyond a doubt that I could get on my phone right now, call Proctor, tell them that I have a compulsive need to stare at my aquarium. And if I had an insurance company that'd write them a check for $50,000, they'd check me right in. There is no question about that. Now, you know, so here's some of the other things. Proctor is now known as the Illinois Institute for Addiction Recovery. And by the way, myself and a bunch of old-time AAers, we spent, you know, I went to AA meetings at Proctor for 12 or 15 years until they got into the money-making business and got out of the helping people business, and all of us quit going. And it's now called the Illinois Institute for Addiction Recovery. It treats you if you have a shopping addiction. Why don't we close all the stores in Morton? Treat you if you have a food addiction. Let's close all the restaurants and grocery stores and outlaw fat people in Morton. I'd have to move out of town. Outlaw sex addiction. Internet addictions. You know, that's another point that no one's ever mentioned to you. I find it curious that everyone's outraged about video gaming, but every 4 years or 5 years, ITV3 and Comcast comes before this board, and you granted a franchise, and I'm sure the 3 trustees are going to vote against this, vote in favor of the franchise, and the village makes money from that franchise. And we're worried about children's video gaming. What about little Bobby that can come home from school and with 2 clicks of the computer mouse or 2 clicks on a remote control can be watching a pornographic movie? Why aren't we worried about that? Are you trying to tell us that's less damaging to children than if they walk through Schooners and see a video gaming machine? Like I said before, that's total bunk. What these people have you believe, and no offense to my friend Barb Smith, she talked about, well, it destroys families. Is a village in the business of preserving families? Why don't we outlaw affairs? Make it an ordinance violation to have an affair. Outlaw alcohol, outlaw cigarettes, outlaw anything that makes your wife mad. The village isn't in the business of preserving families, but what they'd have you believe is here we have this idyllic Morton family, Ward and June Pumpkin. They have a perfect life. Ward gets up every morning, June's scrambling eggs, she's got a starch dress on, pearls. They have 2 sons, Wally and Theodore, and their only care in life is that Wally gives Theodore the business. And one day Ward walks into Schooners and sees a video gaming machine and starts playing. And in 6 months, their house is foreclosed on, Ward's hot, June's pearls, they're separated. June's living with Eddie Haskell, the neighbor. I mean, that's just a bunch of baloney. And, you know, where's the studies that show this is going to happen? This is clearly a situation where a few people, and I don't know, I mean, I haven't counted, but I would suspect we've only heard from like 30 people in opposition. That would be tops. And I looked at that survey on the internet tonight right before I came, and I think it was up to 565 people were in favor. Now, admittedly, maybe 25 or 30 of those people didn't live in Morton. The vast majority are people from Morton that are in favor of video gaming. You know, Mayor Rinson, in your last article in the paper where you discuss this issue, you said, I think, words to the effect of video gaming doesn't bring much to the table in Morton. And I know you didn't intend it, but what you were really saying is that none of these restaurant or bar owners bring much to the table for the village of Morton, because if you don't allow this, they're going to be bye-bye. This is not baloney. They're hurting. You know, I gave you a handout. Schooner's 2012 figures, their total payroll is $64,500. Now, that doesn't include Steve and Marie because they don't get a check unless there's some money left over. Purchased $150,000 worth of food. Paid sales taxes of $19,000. Paid real estate taxes of $7,400. Paid insurance of $10,000. That sounds to me like they bring a lot to the table. And these bar owners, to be perfectly honest, do more charitable work for people in the village of Morton than anyone here, including me, and to be frank, including the people that oppose them. I mean, Marie Arundel just put on a juvenile diabetes fundraiser a week ago Sunday, raised $9,000. She does that multiple times a year. Bill and Christy Ingold, St. Jude's, Race for the Cure. They donate their gym to the private schools. They donate their gym to the youth softball. All this is going to be down the tubes. And I don't understand, Mr. Mayor, how you could have any reservations about what to do. These people are good, decent, Christian people. They're not going to do anything to corrupt the village of Morton simply to make money. But we've had people, you know, if you're going to make an analogy that fits. One man in opposition last time said, well, I'm a financial advisor in Morton, and there's 200 of us, and you just have to adapt. Well, why don't you guys pass an ordinance and say that it's illegal in Morton to sell mutual funds or 401ks, and let him see how he adapts to that. Because that's what this ordinance does. It's the state that's the villain here. It's not the bar owners. The state had to get their hands in the pot and legalize this across the state and give the villages the opportunity to opt out. When Morton opts out, it puts my clients and the rest of these bar owners at a distinct competitive disadvantage. There is nothing going to happen bad if you pass this. Nothing. I'd urge the board to vote in favor. I'd urge the trustees who are members of these churches to at least consider abstaining, at least discuss the matter with Mr. Davies, do something or have some rational basis for voting no, but just don't vote no because somebody mentioned some study but didn't show it to you. That's not the right thing to do, and I'd be telling you that if I was on the other side of the issue. Thank you very much, and I want to thank everybody, including the people that oppose it. At least Morton doesn't suffer from antipathy, and we're lucky in that regard. Thank you very much.
Would anyone like to follow that? There's somebody who wants to do that. I see a hand. Ma'am?
Thank you. I'm Anita Bedell. I'm the Executive Director of Illinois Church Action on Alcohol and Addiction Problems in Springfield. We're a statewide organization that's been working on the gambling issues for 20 years. And I've spoken in many communities, both small towns, large towns, and county boards on this issue throughout the state. The video gambling issue was passed within 24 hours in both the House and the Senate. Most of the legislators had not read the bill, but one of the things that was in there at the bequest of Governor Quinn, and that was that communities have the ability to opt out. And so he put it in there in two different ways. Either through the boards could themselves opt out, or you could have a referendum to opt out, because he thought it was so important on this issue. There would be no problem with a business having gambling if it were not for the cost. Addiction is a big problem. One of the gentlemen before me asked for studies. This is a whole book called Addiction by Design The machines themselves are the problems. The machines are designed to addict people. Experienced video game poker players can play a hand every 3 to 4 seconds, completing an astonishing 900 to 1,200 hands an hour. So when they say it's only $2 a bet, that's right. But if you have 800, 900 bets an hour, you're losing a large amount of money. This is another book. This is one of a series of 5 volumes of studies on gambling. It's from the U.S. International Gambling Report. This is 20 years of studies on gambling. Talks about the addictive nature of gambling, talks about the problems. They did a study in South Dakota. They've had studies in South Carolina. In South Carolina, 20% of the people that gambled on the machines became addicted. So unlike the 1% nationwide of the whole country, this is 20% of the people who gamble on the machines will become addicted. And it comes with a very high cost. Each gambler costs about $13,500 per year. And that's for criminal justice cost, social justice cost, and regulation. Another one of the studies that is in this book is for every gambling machine that will come to your community, you will have 1 new addicted gambler. So if you're talking about 50 machines, that's 50 new people in your community that will become addicted. That's a high cost because it not only affects that person, it affects the entire family, the employers, and many of you, whether you gamble or not, you will be affected by the video gambling. It will change your community for decades to come. It's not something that you go by lightly, and I know you've been under a lot of pressure, so it's something that that must be studied. The city of Chicago does not have video gambling, and also about 40% of the communities in Illinois do not have video gambling. Some become by choice. Some have had ordinances against gambling in alcohol establishments that have been there for a long time. I've heard that the machines that were here before didn't cause any problem. I've heard from people who had the illegal machines. I got calls from one woman who had 2 small daughters, and her husband committed suicide because of the illegal machines. I know another woman whose husband was a bartender, and he gambled on the machines when he died of a heart attack when he was 60 years old, and he was heavily in debt. He had credit cards that she didn't know he had. He had taken out extra loans on both of their vehicles. He had cashed out his life insurance so that she had no money to pay to bury him. So even though you didn't see some of the damage, it was there, and it will be worse. Video gambling is also tied to problems in women. I gave you a packet of studies, and in this there was a study out of Canada where it said 15% of women who gamble on these machines became addicted, and the university that did the study recommended that they outlaw video gambling machines because of the high addiction rate and because of the cost. Gambling addiction is worse among young people. It's double the rate of adults. So when you have video gambling, it gives your young people permission that it is an acceptable and illegal activity, so it gives them permission to gamble. There are already problems with underage drinking in Illinois and underage gambling also. So these are some of the things that you need to look at. When you're talking about the money that you get from video gambling, they talk about $90,000 in revenue. That means that Morton residents would have to lose over $1.5 million in order to get that, because the city only gets 5%. But people are not going to be coming to Morton to gamble on the machines. These are going to be local people who are gambling and losing. And the money that they're talking about that the state's getting, the money that the city's getting, those are all from video gambling losses. That's where the money comes from. In Springfield, where we operate, the city said that they would get $500,000 a year. Sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? But people have to lose over $6 million for the city to get that money. It comes from somewhere. It's going to be a reduction to other businesses. It's going to be people that don't have enough money to buy groceries or clothes or other things. There was an article in the Chicago Tribune yesterday, front page, and it says, video gambling loophole pays off for middlemen. One of the concerns of the gaming board is that the mob would come in with these machines. And so they have two people here. One is from Louisiana, and he came to Illinois for truck stops. Another one is from Chicago. He testified in a mob trial to running illegal video gambling machines. And both of these people, what they did, they signed up bars and different places on contracts, and then they sold the contracts. So they still are getting the money, even though they were not eligible to be licensed by the Video Gambling Board. So this is a problem. Even the chairman of the gaming board says this is a loophole that needs to be closed. So another thing is local control. The video gambling law has been changed every year since it was enacted in 2009. One of the bills that they just signed into law said instead of using cash, that they would use electronic vouchers or electronic cards. This enables people to gamble faster and longer and lose more money. They also...
We're sort of getting to the end of our time limit.
But just so you know that the video gambling had a lot of flaws in it. One of the things they also did was have 24-hour gambling at truck stops so that local people gamble all night. In our community, the big truck stops, people are losing over $100,000 a month on video gambling machines. So it's something that you need to be concerned about. And I don't see a conflict of interest for you to vote on this issue. I would just ask that you support the ban on video gambling. You represent a lot of people, and you also are responsible for what goes on in this community. And I know you have a hard decisions, and I just ask that you retain the vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Going once? Uh-oh.
Bill Engel, 1208 Lee. My wife and I own Red Rock Bar and Grill. I wasn't going to talk tonight because most of everything here was very well spoken. But I didn't want this vote to go without saying something.
I think you just said it.
Yeah, he doesn't do that.
Anyone else? Back of the room.
Hello, my name is Matt Parker. I'm at 201 East Fernwood here in Morton. We run a small business here, have for a little over 20 years, I guess. And I was talking a little bit lighter subject, I guess. I hadn't planned on speaking up here, but it just kind of occurred to me. It was interesting. My wife and I started the Morton to Peoria St. Jude run about 4 years ago. And we ran in Chillicothe and thought that Morton would be a good place to start a run. And one of the first things we did was talk to many of the establishments that are here today. And over the course of 4 years, well, this past year we raised $100,000, and over the course of 4 years we've raised about $300,000. So things are getting a little bit better. But one of the huge contributions to that has really been these folks out here. There's 4 establishments that have helped us, and we wouldn't be able to do what we've done without them. Danette is out here somewhere. She's a big contributor every year, no matter how bad business is. She's a big sponsor. Bill and Christy, Marie, Jerry back there at the VFW. We host meetings, not only committee meetings, but runners meetings and fundraisers. Every fundraiser we've had, we've either had at the VFW or at Red Rock Bar and Grill. Bill and Christy have cooked a spaghetti dinner for us every year since we've had the run. So, I hate to quantify what we do for children with cancer in dollars, but that's how I have to do it. And I can pretty much guarantee with what I've heard in here that if this goes through, that those dollars are going to be much harder to come by, and it'll be much harder for us to find a place to hold these type of events. So thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do. I don't envy the position that you're in right now.
Anyone else? Going once? Should have said that. Yes.
Can I speak again?
Well,
I've spoken once.
I know that's typically not allowed, but why don't you finish it up for everybody?
Thank you for allowing me to talk again. Again, my name is Kathy Corey. I live at 319 East Forest Wood in Morton. Nothing to do with the gaming, but the young lady that talked about underage drinking. I don't think Schooners ever once has been busted for serving an underage person. They have sent decoys in there. We've carded everybody that ever comes in there. Never once have served anyone under 21. It's a family restaurant, family orientated, as are most of the places. I don't know really how anybody else is, but I don't think we are known to serve underage. And we will not let anyone under 21 play the machines if this should go through. And one more thing, talked about how many hands you can play in an hour and lose so much. I don't think that's possible to play that many hands unless you've got 3 machines going or 4 machines going at one time. I just don't know where that came from, and I don't have the statistics, so I really don't know that answer. But I think Morton is very family orientated, and it's not like we are just doing it here. It's 3 minutes away in East Peoria. It's 3 minutes away in Tremont. We're not trying to do something that not everybody is. Again, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I think unless someone wants to disagree, I think we've heard both sides. We've been exploring this for some weeks, and I've been really happy to tell you the truth about all of the input that we've gotten. If it's all right and everyone's through speaking, I will declare the public comment section of the meeting closed and move on to the next piece, which is our consent agenda. The public actually has a right to pull something from the consent agenda if they would like to, and on our consent agenda tonight is simply the approval of minutes from a previous meeting and approval of bills. If no one from the audience wants to pull anything, I'll ask the trustees. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
I don't necessarily want to pull something, I just had a question about something, about one of the bills. So do you have to look at all of them, or can I just ask the question?
I think just ask about the one you're interested in.
Okay, I was asking about the Economic Development Council bill, which was divided between wastewater and gas. And what was the, I don't know anything about it because that was all before I started, so.
I can answer that, Your
I was
Honor.
going to ask if you could.
When the village became a partner with the Economic Development Council and private-public partnership, we committed to certain dues. The village pays about 20%, and the remaining 80% is raised from private contributions for the organization. And the method of distributing the dues within the village was to divide them up among the departments, so that each one pay. It's a matter of convenience. The other way to do it would be simply have a single bill and pay out the total amount. But we are committed, or made a promise for, I believe it was 5 years funding. My fellow trustees and confirm if or disagree, but I think it was 5 years, and we're in year 2, I believe, of that commitment. So this is simply the mechanism by which we pay our annual dues to the Economic Development Council.
Does that mean it'd be other than gas and wastewater next time, or? I mean,
No, I think it's divided amongst the same two. Now, we can divide it up any way we want.
Oh, okay.
If trustees are more
But
comfortable.
those are
with-
revenue departments that bring in
Right,
revenue.
yeah. And that was why it was decided to do it that way.
Okay.
I think it was distributed as far as there was kind of a formula used or whatever, that the amount of benefit that those departments would have if there were an economic development situation, you know, and that they would benefit X percent, and that's why they are charged that fee,
Okay.
sort of, rather than taking it out of the general fund.
Does that do it for you?
Yeah.
Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Belsley.
Yes.
Dobb.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Done. I have 2 items on my list. One is a resolution to support the Guard and Reserve. This is actually a resolution to support a law that we're already required to do, but I would kind of like to hang a few plaques up around the community reminding everybody that we do support the Reserve and the Guard. Essentially what the law says is if someone is called up by the Reserve or the Guard and has to go into training or into active service, we have to preserve their job for them when they come back and their benefits. And I think no one's going to be opposed to that, but I didn't want to start hanging plaques around town without the trustees' support. So could I have a motion to do that?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second by, call it.
Dobb.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
The next ordinance is 1314, an ordinance to support licensed video gambling. Could I have a motion to put that on the table?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Would any of the trustees like to speak to this issue? No one would like to speak to this issue?
I'll make one comment, Your Honor. No matter what we do, yea or nay, we will neither create nor prevent one single additional gambling addict. If we were isolated somewhere, then maybe. But whatever our personal feelings about it, we're naive if we think that anything we do will prevent or create.
I do have some comments I'd like to share. First of all, I want to thank everyone that attended here tonight, and I know several of you have also attended previous meetings as well.
It really shows the passion of Mortonites on this issue, and it's probably the sad thing is it's been shared is that regardless of the outcome of this, there's no doubt going to be some people going home sad tonight just from the information that's been shared. But I did want to share to let others know, I guess, my thoughts on this as well, and it's not just an open or shut yes or no type question or issue. But first of all, the proposed ordinance being considered this evening is essentially a cut and paste of the state law. And that's because the state of Illinois has determined that they know best how to manage video gaming for our community. And if there's anything that we can all agree upon this evening, it's that the state of Illinois has done a very poor job of managing things in the past, including their own affairs. So why would we turn over another matter of local affairs for the state to control? There's nothing to stop the state from changing the rules tomorrow, next week, or next month, and this would all be done without any input or consideration or say from local communities, including Morton. As it's been shared previously by a lady that spoke tonight, the Video Gaming Act was introduced and approved by both houses in a little over 24 hours in 2009. In the legislative session for 2013, there was no less than 5 bills that were passed and signed into law by Governor Quinn. Bills that expanded the presence of video gaming. And it just seems to me like this is a variation of taxation without representation, only it's a case of legislation without representation. And passing this ordinance tonight would have us giving up virtually any control for managing video gaming for our own community. If it were allowed, if it were passed, what is an acceptable limit for legalized gambling in our community? The proposed ordinance tonight that we're considering limits the authorization to establishments with a B2 or B3 liquor license. I think it'd be difficult, I know it would be for me, once this door is opened. It'd be difficult to say no to other businesses that request this down the road. And I certainly don't see our state officials having the fortitude to do so either. And yes, we have lottery in our grocery stores and at our gas stations, but that also was authorized and regulated by the state of Illinois as well. But once we go down this road with video gaming, where do we draw the line? Another point I wanted to make is there are numerous studies, and I won't go into them. I could list several of them. Some of them have been shared tonight, but there are numerous studies that cite the negative impact of video gambling due to lost wages on families, marriages, children, and the workplace. What makes us think that Mortonites are exempt from those statistics? They wouldn't be. Then why would we knowingly allow an activity in our community that without a doubt has the potential to result in negative consequences that we would be paying for down the road? This is not a family-friendly activity. And as much as the recent acknowledgement with our community being named top 10 community in the United States has been scoffed at or belittled or not given much credit, I think that's really neat. I grew up in Morton. I love this community, as many of you do here also. But I think that's a really neat award given to us. It does distinguish us. It sets us apart, and it just didn't come overnight. It was something that was apparent based on the citizens of this community, and it's something really neat. And I guess when I put the two of these issues together, it just seems like putting a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't fit. And lastly, I guess the thing that I really struggle with is, in my opinion, this issue is so far-reaching as to the long-term impact it would have on our community, both socially and economically, that it should really be decided by a referendum. But as we heard tonight, and a attorney, Village Attorney Tom Davies has shared with the board as well, that's not an option because the state law is set up that way. It is a matter right now for us, up to possibly 7 of us that'll be voting on this tonight. And since I'm one of only one of those 7 deciding on the outcome of this issue, and since I feel very strongly about representing the best interest of the entire community, I will not be voting to approve this ordinance tonight.
Would any of the other trustees like to weigh in?
Yeah, I'd like to mention something.
Mr. Dobb?
One of the questions I asked about on the consent agenda was a $55,000 payment to the Economic Development Council. Why would we want to pay that money to the Economic Development Council to support them in our chamber when right now a no vote would not support the local businesses we have? I mean, we can't bring new people in, but we're going to drive the old out. And I think the idea that one of the points Mr. Bush made about somebody sold mutual funds and we said you couldn't do it in Morton. If you had a mutual fund business, it'd put you out of business because you're not on a level playing field with the other people around. We had the gambling before with no restrictions. Now there are restrictions and controls. I personally was involved with seeing if there'd have been any problems, and we didn't have any problems. And I had Chief Hilliard verify there hasn't been any since I retired. So I don't know what the big problem is there with the mob coming in. And our veterans. We passed an ordinance tonight to support the Guard and the reserves. There's been all kinds of talk supporting the officer with the Habitat for Humanity because we want to support our veterans. But you ever going to turn our backs on our veterans fraternal organizations that need that money to survive? I don't think so. I think we need to pass this ordinance.
Trustee Hare, would you like to speak to this?
I'm going to go all the way through. Sure. I'll just take a moment to kind of let everyone know where I'm at. Again, to everyone out here, I do want to say thank you. It is, it's an important issue that a lot of people have thoughts, concerns, and a lot of passion about. And we as trustees and the mayor have been getting a lot of input, and I think we can all agree that the political side of this has been difficult. We've talked about revenue and faith and a lot of things kind of ranging across the board. But for me, and it was talked about tonight, it boils down to personal choice. To me, it boils down to dictating from this position the winners and losers of businesses, when each business should have the choice of whether they want these machines in or not. Let capitalism work then at that point and decide people that walk through those doors, if the community is going to support them or not. Let that be the deciding factor for this. I think that a no vote says that the residents of Morton aren't grown up enough, can't make decisions for themselves, aren't able to, again, make choices on their own, and aren't responsible enough. And for me, I've got a problem delivering that message because I don't want others making choices for me. I think that this community was faced with that choice, a few years back with the alcohol being in the grocery stores, and I think there was very same arguments against that going in. And I think a no vote there, again, would have said that, you know what, you Mortonites, you're not grown up enough. You're not adult enough. You can't make those decisions for yourself. And overwhelmingly, I think that the proof there lies is that we don't have more crime. We don't have more alcohol-related incidents, accidents, fights, because of that. And I think this is the very same, very parallel argument with that. And again, the overriding factor for me is the fact that it's been here, let's talk about the top 10 communities to live in. Well, guess what? That didn't happen overnight. And while it wasn't happening overnight for 25 years, this was in the businesses that we're talking about. So, that I guess that's where I have I come down to choice. I come down to telling people of this community, you're not responsible enough to be able to make those decisions for yourself. That's why I'm a yes vote.
Trustee Herman, would you like to speak to
I
this?
would like to speak. Thank you, Your Honor. This is a difficult decision. It's almost painful to look out and see so many of our friends and neighbors on both sides of this issue. It is a complex issue. It is controversial. And in spite of what some people may have said, I definitely do want to be objective in my decision making. And the best way to do that, I found in all difficult situations, is to gather as many facts as you can, assess the short-term impacts, but also the long-term consequences of the decisions that will be made tonight. So I have actually, for the past, since July when this came up again, tried to do some research and get some facts that would address some of the issues that people have raised. And some things have been said, so I'm going to try to not be too repetitive, but our ordinance mentioned that the Video Gaming Act requires establishments who previously had amusement-only machines to discontinue their use. And that sounds kind of simple, but one thing that I actually just found out, and it was mentioned earlier tonight, but I had not known this until just a couple of days ago, that these new machines are different than the previous gray machines where people just looked the other way while the payouts were split between the patrons and the establishment. These machines, not only are these new machines connected to the state central computer, but they also have much different technology than the previous machines. They have proven, and there are studies available, and I have stacks of information here, that because of the way they're designed with the lighting and the technology, that they have proven to be highly addictive. They are faster, and you can play them faster because you can now use credit and vouchers. And they really are specifically designed, if you look at some of the research, for people to zone out. I know that does not apply to everyone, but that's the way they're designed. Again, the Video Gaming Act was introduced and passed in less than 24 hours, and some members of the legislature probably didn't even know much about video gaming at that point. But it was designed as a last-minute way of funding the capital projects bonds. So there was not a lot of research into the effect of what this would do to the neighborhoods. They just wanted to get the capital projects bonds passed. To support the idea of the highly addictive, Dr. Robert Hunter of Charter Hospital in Las Vegas calls video poker the crack cocaine of gambling because addiction sets in faster than other forms of gambling. And again, in South Carolina, there was a study that 20% of the people who gambled on these kind of machines became addicted. It was mentioned that there was previously no burden on the police department for allowing video gambling, and so there will be no burden now because the Illinois Gaming Board regulates and enforces the Video Gaming Act. It is physically impossible for the Illinois Gaming Board agents to monitor every facility and parking lot with the staff they have. I've spoken with the Illinois Gaming Board. They admit that. The Chicago Sun-Times did an investigative story. I know this is going to sound harsh, and we would all like to think this cannot happen in Morton. But the results of that investigation showed that 85 children were left unattended in casino parking lots over the past 2.5 years. Now, casinos have security and staff to monitor the parking lots, but neighborhood bars will have to rely on local law enforcement. A quote in February of 2013 from the Illinois Gaming Board Administrator Mark Ostrowski: with 2,293, which there were at that time, video gaming machines in use statewide outside of Chicago, which has a ban, and thousands more expected to come online soon, more children being left alone is a legitimate concern. Policing all of the gaming sites in Illinois to deal with this issue isn't something this agency can do. The Illinois Gaming Board has law enforcement agents aboard every casino, but not at the bars and restaurants that have video poker. We just don't have the resources to be able to monitor every location in the state to make sure children aren't being left unattended. So there is a potential for some type of criminal activity if you leaving an unattended child. It's been mentioned that it's necessary to have a level playing field. Well, there's two aspects to that. First of all, it's banned in Chicago, Cook County, DuPage County, and many other municipalities. But I've also, in my research, found that it is banned in many communities across this state that have neighboring communities. Some of are surrounded by communities who do have video gambling. In northern Illinois, Bolingbrook and Shorewood banned video gaming. It did not fit in with their family-friendly culture, but it is allowed just up the road in Plainfield Township. In southern Illinois, you have Edwardsville and East St. Louis who opted out. Edwardsville, particularly because they have a college. In central Illinois, Mahomet, very close to Champaign-Urbana, where it is allowed. I spoke with them. They did not want it. It doesn't matter that it's straight up the road. It's banned in Forsyth, very, very close to Decatur. Geneseo, close to the Quad Cities. Eureka, Carlock, Secor. So there is not a level playing field, and they're okay with that. The other phenomenon, and I don't think anyone has mentioned this yet, when we talk about the playing field, if we open the door to video gaming, the playing field will change. It's not just my random prediction, but this is what is actually happening in other communities. The mayor of Oak Lawn stated that video gaming was approved prior to her election to help Oak Lawn businesses that were struggling to survive. They wanted the additional revenue from gambling to help them keep their doors open. And now here's her quote. But there's something new going on. We can see it growing, and these are new businesses that want to come to town, and their primary purpose is gambling. I'm concerned because the way the state law is written now, we have no control over how many of them there are. She fears the new businesses will eat away at the profits of existing businesses. So the bar landscape will change if this door is open. The playing field likely will not stay the same. In an article dated September 30th, the American Legion in El Dorado was asking their city council to please not allow any more video gaming and liquor licenses. They fear losing their business to newer bars coming to town. The issue of economic impact has been brought up, and I want to reiterate the distribution of the monies that the losses from the machines. 35% of the losses go to the licensed establishment. 35% of the losses go to the terminal operator or the owner of the machine. 25% of the losses go to the state of Illinois, and 5% go to local governments. there is a double negative effect on the local economy, given that information. Not only do 60% of the losses leave the village, 35% would go to the owner of the machine and 25% would go to Springfield. So when you talk about the amount of money that we're being told these establishments would receive, if that were to happen, 60% of the citizens' losses, and most likely Mortonites, is going to leave here and get out and be out of our economy. The second phenomenon with that is there's also a redistribution of the local spending. Now, if you give the benefit of the doubt and assume that all the money lost in the machines will be disposable income, that is money that is not being spent at other local businesses who consequently are impacted. On a side note, in regard to the income, I have spoken with several mayors actually in this area and around the state, and everyone that I spoke with said that the revenues they were promised were much less than they actually are receiving. In regard to economics, and again, I know this sounds harsh, but this is from research and facts, and people ask for facts, and that is what I'd like to share. John Kent, who's a professor of business and legal policy at the University of Illinois, summarizes the economic impact question by stating, "Gambling is an economic cancer on the body politic. It's a black hole of economics. Gambling shrinks the economy. It shrinks the consumer economy because people are spending their money on non-productive activities instead of purchasing cars, refrigerators, computers, and sometimes the essentials of life such as food and clothing." You asked for facts, those are documented facts. But the biggest issue, and really I think the one that should resonate with every local elected official, is the loss of control. It's documented that we will lose control. The governor and the legislature, many legislators, and I've spoken to our local legislators, they knew that legalizing video gaming in neighborhood bars and restaurants would not be a good fit for the culture of many communities. And so they provided the opt-out option. If we now vote to opt in, we will literally be handing off control to the state of Illinois. For instance, our ordinance does not mention allowing video gaming at truck stops, even though the state statute clearly lists truck stops as a permitted location for 24/7 video gaming. I called the Illinois Gaming Board. I had a lengthy discussion with their attorney, and he was, by the way, very helpful, very respectful of communities that have opted out. I asked him about truck stops. He felt that the statute was very clear. You are all in or you are all out. He used the analogy of a swimming pool. He said, it's like when you're at the pool. You're either in the pool or you're on the deck. There's no dipping your toe in the water. While I was talking to him, I also asked about the local control option of possibly allowing video gaming at our veterans and fraternal organizations. I know there was some sentiment expressed that we could we consider that. Again, he repeated, you are all in or you are all out. They won't be allowing exceptions. Oh, one of the reasons he said for that was because there was, if you say, well, you can have a license and you can't, it could involve favoritism and that type of thing and would be unfair. I also talked to the staff at the Illinois Municipal League, and they reaffirmed that opinion. Any ordinance that we would try to draft specifying a finite number of locations or excluding a location included in the state statute, such as our ordinance right now, it excludes truck stops, is inviting a challenge. We are particularly susceptible, they said, because we are non-home rule. So I ask my fellow colleagues on the board, is that how we want to be spending village resources, defending a challenge in court? Another reason to not relinquish local control is the state's track record of loosening the rules. Each year, the powerful lobbies, such as the Illinois coin machine operators, push through legislation to increase the types of establishments that can have video gaming and make other changes to loosen the rules. A few examples. It was expanded to truck stops to be able to operate 24/7. And by the way, during my research, I discovered that Louisiana allows 50 terminals at each of its truck stops. When the Illinois Gaming Board wanted to keep those establishments who had previously operated illegal machines from getting a video gaming license, the legislature changed the bill to only deny a license to an applicant who was convicted of operating an illegal machine. And then just in 2013, House Bill 1570 allows video gaming in restaurants that have off-track betting parlors. House Bill 996 allows video gaming in facilities that conduct charitable gaming. Senate Bill 2234, Senate Bill 1738 allow electronic card and vouchers to be used instead of cash, making it easier and faster to gamble away winnings. Senate Bill 70, exemption to allow video gaming in existing establishments that are closer than 100 feet from a church or school. So all of these things just show that we're heading in a direction of more and more loosening of the restrictions. The Video Gaming Act was enacted to provide funding for a 5-year capital construction bill, but here's the catch, with 20 years of gaming receipts. So it does beg the question of how the legislature will decide to fund the next capital construction bill when they will still have 15 years worth of gaming receipts to pay for the current construction bill. Now, someone mentioned a number of establishments that would qualify. I thought it was all B2 and B3, which would be, I believe, 16 establishments. It's B2 and B3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that is 16 establishments, and then if you add in the truck stop, that would be a potential 85 terminals in Morton. Given the state's track record, that number could likely increase. So just based on this research, the facts really do not align up with the assertions that are made in our ordinance. The most powerful argument against lifting the ban is that once you do, the state will be the sole arbiter of the type of establishments that can have video gaming and how many terminals they are permitted. So, as difficult it is for someone who believes that you should practice restraint, government should practice restraint in limiting personal freedoms, it's still our job as elected officials to consider the long-term consequences of lifting this ban, the long-term consequences for the common good and future of Morton. And a no vote does not mean that I think that Mortonites cannot make their own decisions. Focusing on the community as a whole, I just can't bring myself to vote to willingly relinquish control of this aspect of our culture to the state of Illinois. I'll be voting no.
I'd like to address the conflict of interest and moral compass. It's been pointed at me in several ways over the past few weeks. This is my 17th year on the board. I think my track record will prove that I've separated the two issues. Very few people in this room, including any members of my church, might not know that the church owned a piece of property a few years ago, and they had a contract to sell it. And what those people wanted to do with that, they had to have a zoning request. So I went and discussed with one of the ministers and told him that I had 6 votes of the trustees, that zoning request was going to be denied, and my exact words were, it's dead on arrival. We did not want that kind of business in that area. So I'm quite capable of separating the two issues. And another issue with the church on some other matters, they were wanting to know if the city would do something for them, and I told them no, they wouldn't, because if we did it for that church, we'd have to do it for all, and I didn't think that was a proper use of taxpayers' money. So I have a track record of proving that wrong, that I can separate those issues. What we have here before us too is this truck stop issue. I was here when we voted on that truck stop. We voted on it. It's only 50% of the size that it could be with the land it owns. We did that not only for traffic control, but for all the other things that comes with the truck stop. So the village looked at that several years ago. I don't know if you were on the board then or not. I don't think anybody here was on the board then. So that truck stop was limited because of obvious reasons. Now, the state of Illinois, with my research in that, they're looking at the 24-hour gambling, and they're also looking at gambling parlors. So my concern is somebody from outside this village could come in, buy a piece of rundown property, make a parlor. In a parlor, the main event is gambling. They have minor liquor, but it's to go in and do that. When the state changes the laws, and you and I both know they will, the state's broke. This is one way they're making. I just have absolutely no confidence the state is going to respect Morton's ability to control these issues. There's no way. I think it's a separate issue if we could go back and let the businesses that have them, and the fraternities. I think that's a totally different issue because they have a proven record of no problems. But the new machines, the new laws, the state's broke. We have no control over that. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Newhouse, you already spoke, but would you like to say a few more words?
No, sir, I think not. I may comment when we vote.
Call the question.
Hare,
Yes.
Herman,
No.
Kaufman,
No.
Newhouse.
I opposed the opt-in, supported the opt-out several years ago when this came up because the state legislation was incomplete and I was not willing to commit us to something that we couldn't see. Those issues, to my mind, have been largely resolved. If this were left to me entirely, affecting me and a few other people, I would vote a flat no, but it's bigger than me. It comes down no matter of personal choice. My vote is yes.
Elsley,
No.
Dobb.
Yes.
The vote is 3-3.
Well, I'm speaking just for myself. I can't speak for the village or the trustees. I have to say, I have not seen this as a religious issue at all. Neither have I seen this as a morality issue. I don't see where that comes into play. Furthermore, I don't think it's good guys versus bad guys. I mean, the people that run the taverns in this town generously give of their time and their money to our charities and our schools. They're some of the best citizens in town. So it has nothing to do with who's a good guy and who's a bad and what's right and what's wrong. And I've listened for weeks to the different testimony and haven't said much. I've heard some stuff that didn't impress me much. One of my favorites is we should do it because everybody else is doing it. Not a very good argument for me. My personal favorite is don't worry, the state will take care of it and watch it. I've listened to the tavern owners make some very good cases. I mean, they need this revenue to improve their businesses. And they make the case that this is not illegal to do. The state has said it's legal. How can I not be able to do it? And then similarly, I listen to people talk about behavioral problems and regulatory problems. And so at the end of the day, I've got an awful lot of really good data buzzing around in my head, and it's hard to decide what to do. I could copy Steve Newhouse a little bit and say, if it was just me, it would be an easy vote for me. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm the president of the village, and I have to step back and say, what am I looking at? What is it I'm supposed to do? And I know that everybody makes fun of, not everybody, a lot of people make fun of Morton because we hold ourselves out to be the ideal place for families. And we're not the ideal place for families. But you have to keep trying. And so I vote no. Village clerk, do you have anything tonight?
I have nothing, Your Honor, but I do have a report for the village treasurer who's absent this evening. She would like to request approval to transfer $11,000 from the general fund, $63,000 from the water and wastewater depreciation fund, and $44,000 from the stormwater depreciation fund, all to the capital projects fund.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second. Sam, second.
Herman?
Yes.
Kaufman?
Yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes. Chief of Police.
I have a few things tonight, Your Honor. First, ordinance 1316, which would be a park zone speed limit on Idlewood Street between Parkside and 4th Street. This is much like the school zone speed limit, which reduced the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. Under this, it would be anytime children are in the park within 50 feet of the road. We've had a lot of traffic, high speed in that area, and with the moving of the pool over to the entrance being over on Idlewood, we see a need to reduce the speed, as well as the adding of the new pavilion over in Idlewood Park with the increased pedestrian traffic there. So I would ask the board to approve this speed limit.
So
Changed.
moved.
Second.
Kaufman?
I'd like to make one comment first, Your Honor. I think we need to look at that situation that we may possibly have to take the parking off one side of Idlewood, at least up to the entrance of the pool or up to the driveway entrance of the last house built. I think we need to monitor. I think we have a dangerous situation there. I don't think we have enough swimming pool parking on that side of the building. I don't know if that could be expanded, but when you drive by and look at the parking on the one side where the old parking was, the new here, and those minivans parked there with all these kids getting out, I'm very frightened that we don't react soon enough before somebody gets hurt. And I think if the 20-hour speed limit doesn't work and monitor this thing and take care of it, then we need to have the police recommend closing one side of Idlewood parking, so we only have parking on the park side. I think we need to look at that. And I'd like a report back, 2 or 3 months if it's helped, or after the swimming season, or something, so we got something to go by. Because I think it's a dangerous.
We'll monitor that next season as that
Yeah.
starts.
And now we got the pavilion. It's just, I don't want somebody hurt by us in action. When we've been notified several times, I think we need to do our due diligence.
I agree.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Any other comments?
Did you vote?
No. Did Ginger vote?
Need to call it.
I called you.
Oh, I was first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just, yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb?
Yes.
Hare? Yes. Herman?
Yes.
Chief?
In your packets, I put a payroll expenses for this recent pumpkin festival. The department included overtime and compensatory time given out over $7,500 to the staff at the police department. One final thing.
Do you require approval, or is that just for information?
Just for your information. One final thing. We have been granted approval again by the DEA for a drug drop-off site for old prescription drugs use, and that'll be Saturday, October 26th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. We have it on Channel 22, as well as it's already been posted on our website.
Corporate counsel.
Yes, I sent out a memo on Lynn's Buffet encroachment. I think I'll defer to Trustee Newhouse, who has followed this situation quite some time in his capacity as dealing with zoning and the like.
Yes, Your Honor, trustees, you may remember, not long ago, we considered a request to extend an encroachment at Lynn's Buffet, which had to do with an addition on the back of the building. We concluded that we would not have been in effect for 20 years, and we'd given notice that that would not be extended. That was fully within their control. The current situation with the building encroaching into village space is beyond their control. It was something about which they did not know, and I think about which we did not know, really, until the survey was done. And it is the best illustration that I've seen of what we mean when we talk about a hardship in a case might be before the Planning Commission or the Zoning Board of Appeals. It is a condition not of their making, and therefore we need to grant relief. So I would propose that I think an ordinance would be required. Is that not right, Mr. Attorney?
Yes,
or a resolution?
Authorize an agreement to be entered into with the owner, recognizing this as a hardship, but that it's not to be expanded upon. And if for some reason the building was torn down, it cannot encroach again.
Correct, yes. It would be what we call existing non-conforming.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we have a consensus to let the attorney prepare those documents? Director of Fire and Emergency. Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Your Honor. First one, I'd like to ask for acceptance of bid for water softening salt from Cargill Salt at $76.50 per ton delivered.
Motion.
So moved. Second.
You have to call it for that.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Dobbs.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Next.
Second item, I'd like to ask for approval to waive formal bidding and accept a unit price not to exceed 6 cents per gallon from Stewart Spreading to truck or haul sludge from wastewater plant number 3 to wastewater plant number 2. Just to add a little bit to that, we're very fortunate that a lot of local farmers take our sludge, which would cost us to the tune of $100,000+. This cost us, in your packets there, $25,000. So this hasn't gone to the board before. I'm coming to you tonight because it's going to be over $20,000.
So moved.
Second. And we've worked very hard over the years
Jeff, I
to
think,
keep that.
seconded. I'm sorry, you second, right?
We've worked very
Sam-
hard to
Sam
keep that
was.
sludge cost minimized, and we need to be grateful to farmers to use that stuff up here. It saves us a lot of money.
We had our own spreader for a while, didn't we?
Yeah, we still do some of that.
Years ago.
And we have to haul it from number 3 to number 2. Number 3 is on the north side of town. We don't have the rooms or the farms there, so we haul it to wastewater plant number 2, and then we spread from there to a lot of the local farmers there on the south end of town, and some of our property too.
We had a motion, let's vote for it.
Belsley.
Yes.
Dobbs.
Yes.
Hare. Herman.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Item C.
Item C, I'd like to ask for approval of an agreement with Cloud Point Geographics for professional services for GIS data services in an amount not to exceed $30,000. This is an hourly contract to assist Jeff Bettiger in some of these services.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one comment, Your Honor. I don't know how many people have seen some of the recent articles on GIS, but this is more than just a single piece of technology. I think it has the potential to transform the way villages and municipalities do things and reduce costs substantially. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, it truly is, aside from the labor, and that really is the backbone of what we do. I think the fire chief could speak on how it helps them too, but helps us with our response time and really just our daily activities.
It's a good investment for the village.
Very good investment.
I'm looking forward to the water drainage problems going away. Take that pole and you park it there, and that's where it's got to be.
But this money here will allow us to become more efficient in what we do with the GIS.
Yes.
Dobb?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Item D.
Item D is an ordinance number 13-15, an ordinance amending Title 9, Chapter 9, Section 1 of the Morton Municipal Code. And this is designating Thorn Ridge Drive as a through street. This is at Garnett. It's a four-way there. We don't have very many of these in town, but with some of the houses building up there, there's a little more traffic. We feel Thorn Ridge Drive needs to be a through street. So there'll be stop signs from Garnett coming onto Thorn Ridge Drive. Directly, it's one lot off of Veterans.
Was this a request from residents? or-
I've got several requests from residents. We responded to several of those with staff looking at it. This is just a decision that I, with staff input, am making. It is a dangerous situation. We don't have a lot of these four-ways that don't have yield or stop signs on either leg.
So there's been discussion and communication among the neighbors and the residents knowing this is
Yes,
proposed?
they'll know. Yes.
I've received concerns from the residents myself.
Well, this is the last road of Thornridge, so it's the newest road, correct? Garnet?
It's the southerly one. It's not Stoneway would be the last one to the north, so it'd be the first one there as you come in, which both houses on those corners between Veterans and Garnett were built, I believe, this year. A lot of the concerns and complaints have come from the condo owners directly to the south, where people on Thornridge Drive come in. They look to the left, but they don't look to the right. So there's been a lot of near accidents. I don't believe there's been any actual accidents out there, but it is a concern when we look at it, and we feel this is the best way to address it.
Need a motion?
We have a motion.
So moved.
Okay.
Who's second? Second? Sorry.
Hare? Yes. Herman?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb?
Yeah.
And lastly, this is the second announcement. I announced this at the last board meeting, but the fall yard waste disposal program will begin in 2 weeks, October 21st through November 10th. We'll shut down for a couple days to clean up, and we'll start it up again November 13th through December 1st.
Planning and zoning?
Two items tonight, Your Honor. The first one being the enterprise zone expansion, and included in your agenda packet was a map that designated actually 8 parcels that, with that kind of a brighter orange color, that are currently not in the enterprise zone. A couple of these, there are actually projects planned for, so we'd like to include them so that they can take advantage of the benefits of that program.
Get a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second. Belsley?
I had a question, Roger. I know the state regulates or the maximum size that we can have. How close does that put us to?
I still think I don't know the exact number, but we're pretty well under the number.
Okay, so we're not squeezing that or real close to that yet for maximum.
We've actually been through the process with the Illinois Department of Agriculture. They have approved this. Now we just need it to go to the Illinois Department of Revenue, and that's where it'll be final.
Okay, Herman?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes. Last item I have is regarding swimming pools. Periodically throughout the year, we'll have complaints come in about an unkept pool. Previously, there's not been much that we could do about it, but with the threat of this West Niles thing, I thought it might be good to have something that we could go to the owner with and specifically point out to him, here, you got to clean this up. So after referring with Attorney Davies, he came up with an ordinance, pretty straightforward language that will give us some leverage in those cases.
Motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second. Kaufman.
Kaufman?
Yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dodd?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Belsley, do you have anything?
Not this evening, Your Honor.
Mr. Dobb?
Nothing.
Mr. Hare?
Yeah, I've got one thing that I want to update everyone on is the Farm and Fleet building is not quite. That's what I'm bringing is that's something that we are working on. So I've been meeting with Wendy Farrell and Kim Ulig specifically. So right now, that is a property that we are trying to market, and we do actually have the lease written with the Village and Farm and Fleet currently. So it is in our realm to be able to actually try to market and to sell this property. At this point, for the next few weeks, if there are any questions or any information that potential clients want to have, or potential people looking at the property want to have, we're going to direct them to Wendy Farrell's office for the first few weeks until Kim Ulig gets back from the China trip. At that point, she is going to be the main point person as far as the first place of contact for people to be asking some of the general questions of what that's going to be and what we would be looking for with that property. So the one thing we did, Mayor, that you did have a question, you fielded a question about a potential realtor wanting to represent us or list that property, and that is, to my knowledge, that is not something that we actually want to do. We have done that, had realtors represent us when purchasing property so as to not disclose who we are to potentially drive up the cost. But since we have Mr. Davies on staff and have the marketing power of the EDC and the chamber, we're kind of utilize that. If anybody has any different thoughts on that, let me know. But I don't think we want a realtor actually representing us. We'll certainly be willing to work with the realtor on the other side of the transaction. Does anybody have any thoughts on that part of it? Okay. That's it.
Trustee Herman?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor. Thank you.
Trustee Kaufman?
Just one item tonight, some changes that the Business District Commission facade grant program is recommending. And in your paperwork, there's three changes. One, they'd like to add this eligibility checklist so the applications are more complete, and that's in red. So everything in red is additions to what they'd like to include. And then on the stapled papers, the back paper, number 11, they'd also like to have, they would like to ask what past efforts have been done in the last 10 years to improve the building. And the intent of that statement is to take into account greater preference to businesses that make an improvement on a steady basis to improve their building. They're trying to rate these. And then the final one was, and the biggest change is, and they refused one last year, was that a building that is less than 20 years old, they were refused automatically. You had to be 20 years or older. Their concern is the building may not be 20 years old, but you may have a new business move in or a new owner and things change, and they'd like to be able to address that. So on the front copy, they have age of building, and they have a point system to rate that. So if you're 20 years older, you're going to get 5 points. If you're only 1 year older, I'm sorry, if you're only 1 year old, you're going to get 5, but if you're 20, if you're 5 years old, what am I reading there, Ginger?
Yeah, the
I'm reading it.
higher point value for the
Yeah.
older the building.
Right, so they just felt like they needed to grade that for simple reasons, people moving into town, changing businesses, and it was just never thought of. So I asked Ginger to attend that meeting. I had a different meeting to attend that night with the village. So is there anything I missed there?
No, any questions?
Those are the 3 changes I'd recommend.
This
Make
just
them-
for information?
No, we have to make a motion and
All right.
pass it.
Motion, are you
Yep.
making the
So I'll
motion?
make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Newhouse?
Yeah, good evolution of the business district work, yes. Vote is yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Kaufman?
Yes.
Trustee Newhouse.
Repair and oversight tonight, Your Honor. Law of unintended consequences is caught up with planning and zoning. You may recall that we passed some time ago, changed the variance procedure for the height of signs, and in doing so, we inadvertently included restriction on attached signs, the building. So, for example, if you were building Walmart over again, they wouldn't be able to put their sign up on the front of the building. So what we would like to do here is order a hearing for the Plan Commission to review the variance and adjust, with their concurrence, adjust the variance procedure so that businesses which wish to place a sign on the building might be eligible for a variance as opposed to freestanding sign restriction. So I will move to approve assigning this to the Plan Commission for review.
Second.
Call it.
Didn't know we needed a motion for that.
It requires a direction from the village board to the Plan Commission.
Kaufman?
Yes.
Newhouse?
Yes.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb?
Yes.
Hare? Yes. Herman?
Yes.
Council has informed me that we need to go into executive session to discuss a litigation issue. When we are done, we will not be making any motions or doing any action, so anybody who wants to leave can feel free to leave. Staff can leave too, but I would ask Mr. Kelly to stay. Could I have a motion to go into executive?
Second.
That's Jeff, second.
Belsley?
Yes.
Dobb? Hare? Herman?
Yes.
Kaufman?
Yes.
Newhouse?